We were promised quarterback drama this NFL offseason, and so far it has not disappointed. First, you had the Matthew Stafford-Jared Goff trade. Then Carson Wentz goes to the Colts. So who's next? Deshaun Watson, Sam Darnold, Jimmy G. Steelers going to part ways with Big Ben. You have a quarterback-heavy draft. You have mock drafts where you could have upwards of 4 quarterbacks taken in the first 15 picks. You might have 4 taken in the top 10. We'll see how accurate those mocks are in late April, but there is no doubt that teams are rethinking the position. I saw this incredible stat by Field Yates of the Mothership. Of the 22 quarterbacks drafted in the first rounds between 2009 and 2016, 2009 and 2016, 0 remain with the team that drafted them. The moral of the story: impatience rules the day, according to Peter King, who will join us coming up. It's amazing. When Carson Wentz got dealt to the Colts, that ended that streak, 2009 to 2016. But it's about the second contract, and that's where you got to be really cautious. You look at Wentz and you look at Goff. These are the number 1 and number 2 picks in 2016. They got those second contracts, and now they're gone. And the NFL trade talk is just that. It's talk, but a lot of it is, and we try to create this clickbait. It's a huge demand for football and all these sports shows, but not this offseason. It's real. And these teams are more aggressive than they've ever been. You start to look at where Deshaun Watson could end up. Would it be the Jets? Would it be Carolina? Is there somebody else in the mix? Next couple of months are going to be very interesting as the quarterbacking carousel continues to turn faster than ever before. Let me go back to Carson Wentz being traded. And when I got a report on the same day I told you about in fact, my source was the same person who told me the Broncos were willing to give up Drew Lock and their first-round pick for Matthew Stafford. And that's during a commercial break on the show. My source texted me, and he said, hey, I got a little information on the Broncos if you're interested. And then I called him during the commercial, and I said, got anything on Carson Wentz? He said, they're not getting any calls. And said, the Eagles are trying to create a market because there is no market for Carson Wentz. There were no offers. There was an original offer from the Colts, and the Colts weren't budging. Now, this is after Matthew Stafford has been traded, and I was told, the Eagles, and one NFL exec said it was laughable. What they wanted a Matthew Stafford haul for Carson Wentz. And as he pointed out to me, if he's so damn valuable, why don't you keep him? And that's why there was no market for Carson Wentz. And look, at no point did I say Carson Wentz was not going to be traded. I just told you there's no market for Carson Wentz. Colts played it. They played the long game here. But the Bears never made an offer. There were only 2 teams that we heard about that were interested or could be interested in Carson Wentz. Bears never made an offer. Adam Schefter, Jay Glazer back that up. And, the analogy that I've used is just because you go to an open house for a house that's on the market, that doesn't mean you're buying it. I mean, you can go through the house. That doesn't mean you're getting an offer. Were teams interested in Carson? No, curious. They were curious about Carson Wentz. Like, what's it going to cost us? Because got to look at the salary. What are we giving up? We got damaged goods here. What are we willing to give up? And the Eagles, they had moved past the, point of no return. They couldn't keep him. They had to get rid of him. Well, the Colts knew that. That's why they weren't offering anything. Nothing of substance there. But if you're giving up a third and a conditional second that could turn into a first-round draft pick, first of all, the Eagles have already made a mistake. Everything they gave up to get in the position to take Carson Wentz, then they give him the second contract, and then all of a sudden you got quarterback and coach who don't talk to one another. Then you got dead cap space now, $31 million. You got Jalen Hurts. And I was told, don't rule out the Eagles drafting a quarterback, the 6th pick overall. Can Carson Wentz be fixed? Yeah. Colts have a great offensive line. If Frank Reich can't fix Carson Wentz, then nobody's going to. They are, according to Coach Frank Reich, they're lifelong friends. He's got trust there. But I think that you have to have somebody who is going to be tough on Carson Wentz. You can't let him be a diva. You have to be critical of him. That's something that the Eagles were not. But I think that the Colts, they rolled the dice on this. And it could be one of those trades. And like 3 years from now, I'd love to revisit this and just look at everything that has happened prior to and then during the 3 years. And see, did the Colts get a bargain here? Did the Colts get something that is going to translate into this team going to a Super Bowl? And that's how they have to look at this. But they're investing the money, but they have a lot of cap space here. But you're getting somebody who has shown that they can play at a very high level. He was going to be the MVP in 2017 before he decided to take on a couple of Rams going into the end zone. But there were no offers. There was one offer for Carson Wentz. And that's why when I was called out publicly, and, my point was the Eagles are, saying to inside, I'm an outsider. I don't want to be an NFL insider. All I know is when I get information, I give that information to my audience. That's who I serve. Not other NFL insiders. I couldn't care less. But when I was told it, the Eagles, what was left out when I was publicly called out, the Eagles were trying to create a market because there was no market there. But who helps you? Members of the media. Hey, here in the Eagles getting a lot of calls. People are interested. No, they weren't. That's all. I just give you the truth. I'm not used by a team, not used by a GM or an owner. And if I said when I gave my report, if I'm wrong, I'll apologize. But if you tell me who else was calling, what other offers, I'll listen. But I wasn't wrong. And, this isn't what I do for a living. I'm not graded, if I break a story. I leave that to the professionals. Shefty and Mort and Glazer, Albert Breer, Ian Rappaport, I let them break those stories. But when I get that information, nobody refuted the Broncos trade offer, did they? Nobody refuted that the discord that was going on with the Russell Wilson Seahawks situation. Nobody said, oh, wait, where'd you get that information? So that's where, when I bring it up to you, I tell you what I'm told. And I don't have an agenda. I don't have to, hey, let's pump up Carson Wentz and see what kind of market we have out there. I'm not in the market to do that. I don't need to have quid pro quo. If I help a team or help some person or help an agent or help a player, hey, I'll get something in return. I don't care. I've been in this business too long to understand. I've been down that road before. It's not a good road to be down. There's no quid pro quo. I get information, I give it to this audience. And my track record's pretty good. All righty. With that being said, I know.
Good to have you back.
Yeah, I know. I just, as soon as the trade happened, I text Paulie. I said, wow, it's quite a haul the Eagles got. Wow.
It was quite a text message back and forth.
Quite a market that the Eagles had there with Carson Wentz. How could they field all those offers there? So, it's inside pettiness that. But those. I'm very competitive, and I take great pride in what we do on this show. We break more stories than any of the shows combined, any of the national shows combined. It's not even close. But we do it because we learned how to do it when we were at ESPN, and we pick our spots. I don't cover Tennessee football. But when my source says they're handing out $2,000 in McDonald's bags, nobody refuted that. When I said that the Big Ten was going to shut down football, they did refute that, and then they learned. They learned that I was telling the truth. They were shutting down Big Ten football. That's all. But this isn't how I make my living in breaking stories. But if you ask enough questions, you have enough sources, and people trust you, then you'll get information like this occasionally. So I'll try to limit, getting into that NFL insider role. I don't want to do that. It's too heavy. I'll leave that to McLovin. I'll leave it to the great ones there. Yes.
See, you're like a new dog who moved into the neighborhood, and then all the other dogs have to circle the block peeing all over everything just so they know whose turf you're really on.
I was just surprised. I don't need recognition. I don't need it. And so when I was called out publicly, I'm like, wait, does somebody think that I need a little attention here? Yes, McLovin.
Now that you have that out of your system, I have about 1,000 Eagles questions for you.
Okay.
What is going on here? So they fired Doug Peterson because he doesn't get along with Carson Wentz. Then they trade Carson Wentz. So why'd they fire Doug Peterson?
I have no idea.
What? I get the sense we have no idea. And I'm going we here. We have no idea what we're doing here.
Nobody is left with the Eagles except for the GM and the owner. Since you won a Super Bowl, who's left? They're basically all shown the door.
Yeah, Zach Ertz is on the trade block.
He's going to end up in Indianapolis probably. Yeah, Paulie.
That's the other thing I don't understand about the Eagles. You kind of stumbled into Jalen Hurts. You got a problem with cap money with the quarterback position, but now the quarterback position, you're going to pay him basically nothing for the next 3 years. You got him on a second-round rookie contract. That means Jalen Hurts is basically free. And then you're going to draft a quarterback?
And they may draft one. That's what I was told. My source said, "Are you sitting down?" I go, "Yeah." And he said, I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles drafted a quarterback, depending on who was there at number 6. I went, all right. Well. I look, once again, I don't want to be an NFL insider. I want to be an NFL outsider here. Yes, McLovin. Yeah, I don't understand what they're doing. I truly don't know.
Yeah.
What they're doing. But I'm not involved in that world.
Well, let me ask you a question, just a general question. Who do you blame when the quarterback and the head coach don't talk? Is that on the head coach? Is that on the court? It seems like a head coach has a duty to speak to his quarterback.
He said duty. Yeah, I don't know how you go off the rails. That's where, as my mom would say, I'm going to put you in a room, just you and your brother, and you guys figure it out. That's what, at some point, the GM or the owner has to say, guys, we got to figure this out. Like, how did we get to this point? And how do we get back to where we were before? Yeah, Paul.
We got to come up with a new term for your reporting because you're not an insider. You're not inside with the cool kids with access. And you're not an outsider sitting at a gas and sip on a Friday night smoking cigarettes, eating Funyuns. You're somewhere in between. Yeah. So you're not an insider or an outsider. You're like I don't know what. We got to figure out a term.
I prefer to be an outsider.
Yeah, but you're not. You're too big time to be an outsider.
I know, but I want to be an outsider.
The good-looking guy, the successful people aren't sitting on a curb.
Yes.
What if you're more of an outsider, where you're like a guy who's just sort of along the news-breaking periphery, or an insider. Yeah. You're an insider, not an insider.
Yes, Tom.
A toe dipper? Kind of dipping your toe in at times?
No.
At the edge of the pool?
No. I'm an outsider.
These business cards are going to be awesome, though.
Yeah,
once
they
we
are.
finally get them printed up.
Peter King is Peter an NFL insider?
He doesn't break news anymore.
Yeah.
He says that all the time. He's like, I don't want to break news.
Maybe
That's
you
no
guys
fun.
could start a new club.
No. You know what? It's a thankless job, when you break news. Because then all of a sudden, when I was in the college football world, when I was breaking news about what was going on in college football, man, I had a couple of guys who were really upset. And I went, I'm doing my job. I'm not trying to take over your territory. I pick and choose. Somebody tells me something, I give you the information.
So that you're doing their job. That's the slight change in mindset that you're not getting. You're not doing your job. You're doing their job.
I know. Well, I apologize for doing your job and my job. Last year, the Eagles allowed sacks on just under 10% of their pass plays. Easily the highest in the NFL. Carson Wentz is going to an offensive line that allowed sacks on 3% of their pass plays, third lowest in the NFL.
Stat of the day.
Yeah.
Stat of the day. Stat of the day. Stat of the day. Here comes that what? Stat of the day. stop.
All right, best and worst of the weekend. It's great to be back. Phone calls are welcome. Peter King will join us coming up. Is Carolina the landing spot, the destination for Deshaun Watson? And what would you give up for Deshaun Watson? Let's say you're Carolina. How many first-round draft picks? And Christian McCaffrey. If you're the Dolphins, how many first-round draft picks? And would you give up Christian Wilkins, former teammate of Deshaun Watson's? Would you give up Tua? If you're the Jets, how many first-round picks do you give up? And do you give up Sam Darnold? I would have no problem giving up whatever a team wants if I can get my franchise quarterback on his second contract and he's 25 years of age. The league is all about getting a quarterback. The league is set up for you to go 8-8. They want everybody to go 8-8. The difference between 10-6, 6-8, man, that math didn't work. 6-10. Sorry. I was on a roll. Okay, I'm 18 minutes in. All right. 10-6, 6-10 is your quarterback. I mean, there's some luck that goes into it, but your quarterback is the difference. And if you get your quarterback, or you can get a quarterback, you go get him.